There are things people don't make sense to anyone watching. Small rituals, quiet habits, acts that look like nothing from the outside, until the day you find out what they were really for. And then they become the most important thing you have ever heard. Her name was Estelle, 78 years old, widow for 11 years. Last house on Mercer Street, the one with the blue door and the rose bushes her husband had planted the year they moved in. She lived alone, quietly. The way people down the person they built their whole life around is suddenly gone in the house, feels 3 times too big. Her daughter called on Sundays. The mailman waved. The neighbors brought casseroles at Christmas. But every night at exactly 7 p.m., Estelle walked to the front door, reached for the switch, and turned on the porch light. It had started 9 years ago, the same year her son Danny had walked out of her life. Not because of anything dramatic or final, just the slow, terrible drift that happens sometimes between people who love each other but don't know how to say it. A missed birthday, an unanswered call, a Christmas that passed without a card, and then silence. The kind that stretches across months and then years and becomes so heavy you don't know how to lift it anymore. Danny was out there somewhere. She didn't know exactly where. She didn't know if he was okay. She didn't know if he ever thought about the blue door at the end of Mercer Street. But she kept the light on, just in case. Her neighbor once asked her about it. A kind man named Arthur who lived 2 doors down and walked his dog past her house every evening. "That porch light of yours," he said one night. "You never turn it off." Estelle had smiled the way people smile when the real answer is too large for small talk. "I'm waiting for someone," she said simply. Arthur had nodded and kept walking because sometimes that is the only right response. He never asked again. But every night when he walked past and saw that light, he thought about whoever she was waiting for, and he hoped they were on their way. Before we continue, if you have ever waited for someone or been the person someone waited for, subscribe to the Human Files right now. These are the stories that almost never get told. 9 years is a long time to keep a light on. Long enough for the bulb to burn out and be replaced 17 times. Long enough for the rose bushes to grow wild and be trimmed back and grow wild again. Long enough for Estelle's hands to become slower and her steps more careful and the house to grow even quieter. But every night, at exactly 7 p.m., the light came on. Her daughter had gently suggested once or twice that perhaps it was time to let go. Estelle had looked at her with the patience of someone who understands something the other person doesn't yet. "You don't turn off a light," she said, "for someone who might still be walking home in the dark." Her daughter had not brought it up again. It was a Tuesday in November when the car pulled up outside the last house on Mercer Street. Late evening, cold and raining. A man in his late 40s sat in the driver's seat for a long time before getting out. He looked older than he should. Thinner. The kind of tire that sleep doesn't fix. He stood on the wet pavement and looked at the house. At the blue door. At the rose bushes. At the porch light burning steady and warm in the rain. He stood there for a long time. Long enough for the rain to soak through his jacket. Then he walked up the path and knocked on the door. Estelle was in the kitchen when she heard it. She moved slowly, the way she always did now. She reached the door, put her hand on the latch, and opened it. For a moment neither of them spoke. 9 years of silence standing between them in the cold November rain. Then Danny said, "I saw the light." And Estelle said, "I know." That was all. She stepped back. He walked inside. She closed the door. And the porch light stayed on all night for the first time, not because someone was coming home, but because someone already had. The neighbors noticed the difference before anyone said a word. 2 figures through the kitchen window instead of one. The blue door opening twice in one morning. Arthur walking his dog past and seeing them both on the porch with coffee, not talking much, just sitting in the same space, learning how to be near each other again. He didn't stop. He just slowed down for a moment, looked at the porch light still glowing in the morning, and felt something loosening in his chest that he hadn't realized was tight. Danny stayed for 3 weeks that first visit. Then he came back at Christmas. Then in the spring moved back to the same town. Not into the house. He rented a small apartment 10 minutes away. But he came for dinner on Thursdays and called on Sundays before his mother could call him. And every evening when he drove past Mercer Street in his way home, the porch light was on. Not waiting anymore. Just there. The way some things stay, not because they need to, but because they have become part of how a place breathes. Estelle never explained it to him. She didn't need to. He already knew. She passed away the following spring. Peacefully. in the house with the blue door, with Danny beside her. At her request, they left the porch light on through the night after she died. Danny sat on the front step in the dark and looked at the street she had watched for 9 years. He understood now what she had understood all along. That love doesn't shout. It doesn't chase. It doesn't demand or argue or keep a record off years lost. It just keeps the light on and trusts that somewhere out there in the dark, the person it is burning for will eventually find their way home. This is the Human Files. Stories that almost went untold. People who almost went unseen. Subscribe, share, and tell us in the comments. Is there someone you have been keeping a light on for? Or someone who kept one on for you?